Jizzle, you already know what time it is, man. It's your boy, Grown Man Business. And listen, you could tap in or you could tap out, but you know my slogan. You know what I suggest, and I suggest you tap in. So let's get right into it. And Caucasian people, you are the topic of discussion. Caucasian folks, you are the topic of discussion. So let's get right into it. Now, you already seen the caption. I'm sure you already seen the title. You already seen the caption. So you already know how I'm coming. And this is for my Caucasian people. Let's talk about it real fast. Let's get into it. Now, you know, like I said, man, I said what I said, and it is what it is. I said what I said, and it is what it is. When I roll up to a red light or a stop sign, and I see a homeless, you know, a homeless, filthy, dirty Caucasian person standing at that light, and they're asking for change. You feel me? They got their cup out. I do not exchange money with them. Now, a lot of my friends, when the topic comes up, they laugh, and then they want to know my ideology. They want to know why. Where does that train of thought come from? But they get a good laugh first. You feel what I'm saying? And like I said, man, when I pull up the red lights, when I pull up the stop signs, and there's homeless Caucasian people there, I do not give them money. Why, GMB? Why don't you exchange funds with them? Why don't you give them a little change? Nah. You understand? Because it gets deep, it gets wicked, and it's always deeper than rap when you scratching the surface. And my, have times changed. Have the tables turned, where you used to see a whole bunch of black people on crack, on drugs, and now it's the other way around. It's almost a 360. You understand what I'm saying? And yeah, man, it's like some of the things and the plights that our people went through, I'm watching Caucasian people go through it. Homelessness, drug addiction. Yeah, you know, and I sit back. And it's not, you know, I would say it's mind-boggling, but it's not. It makes perfect sense. Now let's dig into it. Let's get into this. So you already know how we do here at Grown Man Business TV. We coming from multiple different angles, my G. We coming from multiple different angles, and that leads me and that segues me into my first angle. My first angle, my G, and that's just why I don't give homeless Caucasian people money. Now let's break this down. Let's get into this. Now, when you look into the fabric of American history, you understand, American history, events that took place on U.S. soil, the one thing that is consistent, if you ask me, the one thing that is consistent is just how savage the Caucasian ancestors were. How savage they were towards everybody, especially foundational black Americans. Yeah, black Americans that were here with the Native Americans before the Europeans ever even touched foot in the Americas. But how savage they was, how far they would go to secure this land for you guys. Oh, they went through a lot of different things, a lot of different cycles, a lot of, you know, evolution. They reformed it over and over again. They tweaked it out over and over again. But the savagery never left. You know, I don't got to go down a list of things they did, right, to secure this land for you guys. You know, feeding babies to alligators, going into the slave quarters and having their way with the women. That even the little girls and the children, they were having their way with them, you know, just on how they would, you know, castrate and brutally, you know, execute the male slaves in front of everybody. I mean, it's tons of other things. It's multiple different angles I could take that. But I just wanted to give y'all a few. So, you know, when I roll up and I see a homeless white person, a homeless Caucasian person, you know, I automatically feel disgusted. I automatically feel like, you know what? Your ancestors are rolling over in their graves right now. They are rolling over in their graves right now at the fact that you are homeless and you got a young black male pulling up on you, you know, pocket full of money, you know, convertible, big house, etc. You know, they wouldn't dare let that happen. They wouldn't go for it. They would literally make up laws and put it into play to take everything that I had. You know, the ancestors, the Caucasian ancestors, the savagery, the way that's, you know, they would do anything, and they did almost everything to secure this land for you. So the last thing that I'm going to do is exchange money with you because you are homeless. Nah, you can't. It's almost impossible to be homeless and Caucasian in America. Even though it's hundreds and thousands of homeless Caucasian people, you know, you would think that it was impossible at the advantages that your ancestors, you know, went through the mud for. They did everything possible to lock this land down, and it's looking like y'all fumbling the ball. You feel what I'm saying? Now, you already know how we do here at Grown Man Business TV. We coming from multiple different angles. We coming from multiple different angles, my G. And that leads me and segues me into my second angle. My second angle. And that's the mere fact that Caucasian people don't like to talk about American history anymore. The new age Caucasian, the new age white person does not like to bring up American history. When I say American history, I mean like slavery, you know, the Civil War, you know, civil rights movement, American history. And, you know, I had a couple of my friends ask, like, why do you think that is so? Like, you know, their ancestors were so openly prejudiced, so openly racist that, you know, you would think that their great grandkids would be the same way, you know, that those mannerisms will be passed down. But it's looking like the ancestors, you know, the descendants, the great grandkids and the grandkids, they getting weaker and weaker and weaker every generation. And again, like I said before, I'm sure your ancestors are rolling over in their graves at the fact that y'all have become so weak. Yeah, the things they were willing to do to secure this land, you guys aren't willing to do. And I'm understanding it now. It's almost like, just for example, let's say somebody has a uncle that you know, messes with kids, the M word, right? And, you know, we're all at a gathering and you bring up that person's uncle. Hey man, what's going on with your Uncle Chester? And we all know what your Uncle Chester is into or what he used to do. It would be so embarrassing to have to speak up for your Uncle Chester, for you to have to explain your Uncle Chester's situation. You understand? Now, that is what's going on with Caucasian people, because we are at a point in American history, we are at a point in time where we have so much technology, so much information, that once you start breaking things down, you know, it comes with a lot of questions. It comes with a lot of questions. And the only people to ask are the descendants of these ancestors. You understand? And you got to know, like, when you bring it up to them, it's gut-wrenching. You know, they lose breath. They can't breathe. They don't want to talk about it. It's so embarrassing. You know, at the fact that your great-grandfather probably was, you know, having his way with children, having his way with women in the slave quarters, was probably a killer, probably murdered, you know, amongst everything else that came in that pot. And, you know, for me, it's, you know, I get a high level of gratitude. I get a high level of satisfaction at bringing up these kind of topics to Caucasian people and having them explain, having them give their explanation on what that was or what that is. You got to know I get a kick out of it. Yeah. Because like I said before, the tables have turned. The tables have turned. And before you can receive your blessings, before you can go to the next level, trust what I'm saying to you. Y'all are going to have to take accountability for what your ancestors did. Oh, full accountability. Yes. Y'all are going to have to address what your ancestors did, because you got to look at it like this. If your ancestors were savages, doesn't that get passed down through genetics, through your DNA? You know? So a lot of that savage mentality that your people had, you got to know that it's in you somewhere. And the more we talk about American history, the more we talk about slavery, the more we talk about what was done to those people, to our ancestors, the more it's going to trigger that savage mentality. Oh, it's a beautiful thing to see. Now, mind you, I'm not going to make this a long one, but I had to tap in because I had a friend asking me, you know, why don't you give homeless Caucasian people a little bit of change? And I refuse. Oh, I refuse. There's no way you can get a dime out of my pocket. I don't care how homeless you are. You have to stay homeless, because for you to be Caucasian and homeless in America says a lot about you. And it says you disrespect your ancestors. And it just says that you didn't take full advantage of the opportunities that were given to you. No, and I said it right. Given to you. You understand? So you already know how we do here at Grown Man Business TV. You feel me? We coming from multiple different angles, my G. We coming from multiple different angles. And that segues me and leads me into my last angle, my third angle. My last and final angle. And that's just, you know, the laws that have been passed, especially in Florida. They literally passed a law saying that Caucasian people don't have to and shouldn't feel guilty for what their ancestors did. And I just thought that was deep. Think about how deep that is, that you would have to pass a law to help Caucasian people not feel guilty for the rights and the privileges that they take advantage of, that people died for, families were ripped apart for. Yeah. Why? You know, the fact of the matter is, if you don't feel guilty, don't feel guilty. The situation still has to be addressed. And if you don't feel guilty and you don't feel ashamed, then that says a lot about you. That says that you actually still have some of that savageness in you that your ancestors left behind. It's still reminiscences there, you know? So again, like I said, it's not going to be a deep one. It's not going to be a long one. But Florida, again, I like some of the bills, but then there are other bills that just makes you go, where does that come from? How does that work? Yeah. And you know, again, like I said, they don't want to feel guilty and they don't want to talk about it, because the more you dissect the whole situation, the more holes get poked in it. Where are the slave ships? Ask yourself, have you ever seen a slave ship? Have you ever been to a museum? Have you ever seen pictures of your friends or random people on Instagram at museums where slave ships are there? They have bones from dinosaurs that lasted, you know, 2 million years, but they don't have slave ships for you to see. That's because the majority of the slave ships didn't make it here to the Americas. They might have, you know, stopped in Cuba. They might have got some sugar cane down there. They might have been in the islands. But to get all the way to the Americas, 3/4 of the shipment was already thrown overboard. So where did all these slaves come from? Yeah, we were already here. That gives us a certain right and a certain claim to this land. And they would do anything to stop you from knowing that, from stopping you from gaining the knowledge, from stopping you from finding out exactly what I'm saying right here. Call yourself Negro. Call yourself African American. Call yourself black. Call yourself everything except for foundational. And we're going to switch that up, and we're going to change that and bring it to the light. So you already know what time it is. It's your boy, Grown Man Business. And listen, you can tap in or you can tap out, but you know my slogan. You know what I suggest. And I suggest you tap in. I suggest you tap into this grown man business. I suggest you tap into this grown man content at all times. You already know what it is. Straight off the brick into the bottles. Straight off the brick into the bottles. Straight raw, pure, uncut, no extras, no preservatives. We not sugarcoat nothing, and we not dressing nothing up. Caucasians, I'm giving it to you straight raw. Straight raw. And I already told you again, you know, I done gave it to you line for line, bar for bar. You know what I'm saying? Chess move for chess move on just how the whole situation is playing out. On just how I don't exchange money with homeless Caucasian people. I will not give a homeless Caucasian person any money, because your ancestors did some of the most craziest, the level of savage they went through to secure this land for you. And for you to be homeless and Caucasian on this land is a smack in their face. It's a smack in your ancestors' face. You need to sit down, reevaluate your situation, and figure out what you did wrong, because you didn't take advantage of the opportunities that were given to you. And you know, why don't white people like to talk about American history? Because all of this happened on American soil. Because it's embarrassing. Oh, it's so embarrassing. And the more you dissect it, the more you break it down, it's easy to see the holes in the fabric. It's easy to see the chinks in the armor. It's easy to see that somebody stole something and it's time to pay. Oh, and if you don't pay with funds, you know, the energy has to be given back. You know, they know that. So you already know what time it is, man. It's your boy, Grown Man Business. And listen, you can tap in or you can tap out, but you know my slogan. You know what I suggest. And I suggest you tap in.